Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something that's been making waves on the internet recently. TMZ's latest shade at Gypsy Rose Blanchard. This story has everything drama, irony, a crumbling alliance, and a narrative twist no one saw coming. If you've been following Gypsy's journey, you know she's been a figure of public fascination, from her tragic backstory to her controversial actions after her release from prison. But now, it seems even TMZ, one of her long-standing media allies, is flipping the script. In their latest podcast, TMZ verified the host did not hold back on throwing some serious shade at Gypsy. From her relationship drama to her baby's name and even her hacking saga, they've aired it all, and it's nothing like the support they've shown her in the past.
Gypsy Rose was legally married to Ryan Anderson when she first got out of jail. However, Ken Urker was her original prison bae. Like, when she first went to prison, you know how they had those little pen pal love relationships? Kim was the original, her original man. But then she broke up with Ken Urker to get with Ryan Anderson, who she was with when she got released from prison, and they got married. It didn't work out. Bam.
Great summer.
Let's break this down piece by piece, unpack the backstory, and figure out what this all means for Gypsy and her public image. To set the stage, TMZ has historically been one of Gypsy's go-to platforms. They've been the first to break news about her life, often presenting her in a favorable light. Over the years, TMZ seemed to have a unique relationship with Gypsy, often framing her actions in a way that generated public interest while softening some of the harsher criticisms aimed at her. But in their recent podcast episode, the tone was drastically different. It felt like a deliberate effort to distance themselves from the systematic narrative they had previously maintained. The hosts openly mocked Gypsy and dissected her recent actions with a mix of sarcasm, disdain, and unrestrained humor. It's a stark contrast to the sympathetic and supportive coverage we've seen from them before, which raises the questions, why now? The podcast began with the hosts acknowledging that Gypsy had been a favorite topic of theirs. They've been covering her since her release from prison in December 2023, and there was even a sense of camaraderie in how they spoke about her past stories. But that sentiment quickly shifted when they brought up the news of Gypsy giving birth exactly 1 year after her release. One of the hosts sarcastically clapped, saying it was for the prison, before backtracking to say the applause was for the baby.
We got to start with one of our favorite people. If you watch TMZ podcast, you know there's no one that Steph and I like to talk about more than Gypsy Rose.
I bet you thought we were gonna say Tyga. No, we weren't.
Or like talk to a girl.
Okay.
No, if you're a longtime fan, we used to do like a whole Gypsy Rose update when she first got out of jail. Anyway, Steph, what's the latest?
Okay, Gypsy Rose Blanchard's daughter was born on the 1 year anniversary of her release from prison.
Clap it up for prison. Oh, not that, but for the baby. You know.
At least she didn't have it in prison. I respect that.
Yes.
This moment set the stage for the tone of the entire episode. It was clear this wasn't a genuine celebration, but rather a jab at how Gypsy continues to intertwine her personal milestones with her prison timeline. This clapping, laced with irony, wasn't just a passing moment. It was symbolic of a larger critique of how Gypsy seems to frame her life events in ways that draw attention to her past. As the discussion unfolded, the sarcasm escalated. The co-host added a quip about how at least Gypsy did not have the baby in prison.
No, I guess.
Also, guys, I'm stuffy right now, so just don't make fun of me, okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
Gypsy Rose and Ken Urker, they welcomed their daughter together.
Aurora
Raina Urker is the daughter's name. She was actually born on December 28th. They didn't let us know, though, until January, like the first of the year, that Gypsy had actually had the baby. But from what we know, the baby's 6 pounds, 5 ounces, healthy. Gypsy Rose seems healthy. Ken posted a photo on his Instagram to be like, we just had the baby. Welcome to me and Gypsy Rose's baby. Steph?
How much did you weigh when you were born?
Probably like 7 pounds.
Oh.
Well, do you think this is a small baby or a big baby?
I thought like pretty small, teeny tiny.
Yeah, babies are like 7-ish. I don't know.
Preemie is like 5. I don't know. I was just wondering.
Okay, how much did you weigh?
7.
A comment that was more cutting than humorous. While this might sound like a harmless joke, it was clearly aimed at ridiculing Gypsy's habit of tying her present to her prison history. The hosts seem to imply that she leans heavily on her infamous past to keep herself relevant in the public eye. And this moment of mockery drove that point home. It wasn't just about the baby's birth, it was about how Gypsy manages to make every milestone a reflection of her complicated history, often overshadowing the present with the shadow of a controversial past. The opening segment was a turning point in TMZ's approach to Gypsy's story. It wasn't just a casual commentary, it felt calculated, as if TMZ was signaling a shift in their stance. For years, they had been the platform that gave Gypsy the benefit of the doubt, amplifying her side of the story without challenging it too harshly. But now, they seem to be calling her out, openly questioning her motives and presenting her actions as a folder for ridicule. This wasn't just a change in tone, it was a complete pivot in how TMZ positioned themselves in relation to Gypsy's narrative. The hosts then dived into Gypsy's relationship history, and let me tell you, they did not hold back. They brought up the fact that Gypsy had her baby with Ken, her first fiancé, whom she reconnected after leaving prison. Their relationship has been a topic of public scrutiny, especially because Gypsy left her husband Ryan to be with Ken. The podcast hosts painted the entire situation as messy and chaotic, poking fun at the timeline and the dynamics of her relationships. They explored the circumstances of Gypsy's decision to leave Ryan, a move that shocked many who followed her story. The timeline itself was enough to draw ridicule. According to the hosts, it seemed that Gypsy moved quickly, leaving Ryan soon after her release and reuniting with Ken, someone she had initially connected with as a pen pal while still in prison.
Shout out to Gypsy Rose. This is interesting because the person that Gypsy Rose had this baby with is not her husband. If y'all can remember, Gypsy Rose was legally married to Ryan Anderson when she first got out of jail. However, Ken Urker was her original prison bae. Like, when she first went to prison, you know how they had those little pen pal love relationships? Ken was the original, like,
Lover.
her original man. But then she broke up with Ken Urker to get with Ryan Anderson, who she was with when she got released from prison, and they got married. It didn't work out. Bam.
Great summary.
Thank you.
This narrative alone painted a picture of turbulence and impulsiveness, leading the hosts to describe it as a soap opera to life. One of the most talked about moments was when they discussed Gypsy giving Ken a promise ring during their gender reveal party. Instead of the traditional scenario where a man gives a promise ring to a woman, Gypsy flipped the script. TMZ's hosts mocked this as a desperate move, joking that it was Gypsy's way of promising Ken she wouldn't leave him like she did Ryan.
Is that I don't know what to call a relationship status when the girl gives the guy a promise ring at the gender reveal.
Well, I think the promise ring was like a promise to
Not leave him like she did
Ryan Anderson. I think it was also like a promise to like be with you, because you gotta think during that, like she's still technically married, or was still technically married to Ryan Anderson. So like maybe it was like I promise to you, even though I can't give you like a ring, it's like the ring I give you to show my love.
Do you think she'll propose to him as well?
I don't think she's gonna propose to him, please.
A promise ring is like proposing.
First of all,
Stand up.
Are you okay with women proposing?
No.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, exactly. Stand up. Like, why the fuck are you down there?
What? Get up.
What is happening? Oh my God.
They even speculated about the underlying message behind the gesture. To them, it seemed less about romance and more about Gypsy trying to secure the relationship by demonstrating her commitment in a highly public way. The commentary did not stop there. They criticized the unconventional nature of the promise ring exchange, joking that it may be a red flag for Ken. The humor turned darker when they suggested that if a woman had to choose between proposing to a man or staying single, she should always opt to stay single. And if the choice was between proposing and jumping off a cliff, well, they joked that jumping off the cliff might be the better option.
The TikTok where, and I will send it to you so you
Yes.
can input,
Okay.
where the woman goes, when you are proposing as a man, stand firm. Don't kneel like this. Stand firm in your knee. Propose.
Oh, like a heart, like I have a
Like a
strong knee.
stance.
Strong knee.
Stand up.
What about when women propose? Do you?
Absolutely not. Ever.
No, just don't. No, I also
Be
think
single.
women should.
If that's your option,
I'm a
propose
man,
to
and I'm
him.
letting y'all know, like, don't ever propose to no dude.
If
Like,
your options are to propose to your man to get married or be single, choose single.
Seth goes, if your options are propose to a man or jump off a cliff.
Jump.
God.
While the jokes were exaggerated, they carried an undertone of criticism, highlighting a sentiment many in the public have shared, that Gypsy's actions in this relationship appear unconventional and possibly a sign of deeper insecurities. They also delved into the gender reveal itself, pointing out how it became more about Gypsy and Ken's dynamic than the celebration of their child. The promise ring exchange overshadowed the event, turning what should have been a joyful moment into yet another point of public scrutiny. The hosts even speculated on the power dynamics in the relationship, suggesting that Gypsy's overt gestures could be interpreted as her trying to hold onto Ken, while Ken's lack of reciprocal actions might indicate he's less interested. The entire segment painted a chaotic picture of Gypsy's relationship with Ken. From the rushed reunion to the highly publicized promise ring moment, the hosts portrayed it as a series of missteps that reflected poorly on both individuals. They concluded that the dynamics of the relationship, combined with Gypsy's history of dramatic moves, were a recipe for public fascination and ongoing scrutiny. As if the relationship drama wasn't enough, TMZ also took shots at the name Gypsy chose for her daughter, Aurora Reina Acker. According to the hosts, Gypsy dropped the ball with this name. They speculated that Gypsy might have considered passing down her infamous Rose Blanchard name to her daughter, suggesting it would have kept her in the public eye and cemented her connection to a controversial legacy. By not doing so, they implied she missed an opportunity to make her child's name a more direct link to her own public persona, ensuring continued relevance. Instead, they ridiculed the name Aurora Acker, describing it as a tongue twister that lacked any of the elegance or intrigue expected from someone with Gypsy's knack for theatrics.
I'm not giving the baby her last name. Like, I would have named my baby Aurora Rose Blanchard.
For the clout.
For the clout. Who the hell is Aurora Urker?
What do you think
It sounds like another honky tonk.
I saw a TikTok, a couple of them, that were like, what if she said Aurora, her mother's name, Urker?
Aurora Didi Urker?
In memory.
I don't think she would have did that.
The hosts went further, comparing the name to something one might hear in a honky-tonk setting, emphasizing how unusual and, in their view, poorly thought out it was. The commentary was laced with sarcasm, making it clear they saw the choice as a reflection of Gypsy's lack of foresight. In another podcast episode, the criticism continued as the hosts reiterated how the name did not roll off the tongue. They humorously predicted that Aurora might face struggles due to the uniqueness of her name, joking that it would be a source of confusion and difficulty throughout her life. They suggested that Gypsy could have avoided this issue by giving her daughter a name with better flow, such as pairing Aurora with Blanchard instead of Acker. To the hosts, this alternative would have made the name sound more cohesive and less jarring. But the critique wasn't just about phonetics. The hosts implied that this name choice revealed deeper flaws in Gypsy's decision-making. They questioned whether Gypsy had fully considered the implications of her daughter inheriting a name so disconnected from her infamous past, yet tied to a surname that might subject the child to mockery. For them, the decision was emblematic of what they perceived as Gypsy's impulsive tendencies and lack of strategic thinking when it comes to shaping her personal narrative and public image. This decision around Aurora Reina Acker wasn't limited to the name itself. It expanded into a broader critique of how Gypsy appears to manage her life and decisions post-prison. The hosts speculated on whether the unconventional choice was an attempt to step away from the Rose Blanchard name to create a fresh start, or if it was simply a misstep born out of a desire to be unique without considering the consequences. Either way, it gave TMZ more fuel to question her judgment and poke fun at what they saw as yet another example of Gypsy's controversial choices. Next up was the infamous hacking story. Gypsy had claimed that her TikTok account was hacked and that she struggled to regain access. TMZ's hosts weren't buying it. They questioned the credibility of her story, pointing out that in today's digital age, claims of being hacked often come off as excuses to cover up embarrassing posts or controversies. They even joked about the prevalence of two-factor authentication, implying that Gypsy could have avoided the situation altogether if she had taken basic precautions. This segment was a clear departure from TMZ's earlier coverage, where they had given Gypsy the benefit of the doubt and even published screenshots she shared to prove her account had been hacked. The shift in tone here was significant, as it showed TMZ moving from being Gypsy's ally to questioning her integrity. To understand the weight of this shift, we need to look at TMZ's past relationship with Gypsy. Over the years, they've been one of the few media outlets to consistently give her a platform to share her side of the story. When Gypsy gave birth to her daughter, TMZ was the first to report the news, highlighting the significance of the date, December 28th, the anniversary of her release from prison. They've also covered other milestones, like her divorce from Ryan and her paternity test with Ken, often presenting her narrative without much skepticism. One of the most notable examples of TMZ's support came in September 2024, when they published an article titled Gypsy Rose Blanchard FaceTiming Young Boy with Rare Illness. Sweet side in check. But now, with TMZ's recent shade, it is clear that this relationship has soared. The podcast tone suggests that TMZ is no longer willing to present Gypsy in a favorable light. Instead, they are joining the chorus of critics who have questioned her actions and decisions. This shift could have significant implications for Gypsy's public image. If even TMZ, her longtime ally, is turning against her, it is hard to imagine other outlets continuing to support her narrative. So, what's next for Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Has she completely lost the media's favor, or is this just a one-off stance of TMZ throwing shade? It is hard to say, but one thing is clear: the tide is turning. The public is starting to see through some of the narratives she's crafted, and the media is beginning to call her out. Whether this marks the end of Gypsy's ability to control the narrative remains to be seen, but it's certainly a turning point. What do you think? Has TMZ truly flipped on Gypsy for good, or is this just a temporary shift? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like and subscribe for more updates on this story and others like it. Until next time, stay tuned.